We're going to talk very fastly about the next one. So if you don't know Mackenzie Kizer, also known as Mac, here the gentleman is coming on stage to talk about building with Jack Henry platform. Mac, stage is yours.
Hey, good morning. It's great to be here. I don't know if somebody's already done this, but I'm very curious to see in the audience the different folks that we have. So just real quick, if you're with Jack Henry, if you don't mind just raising your hand. All right, so we got a lot of Jack Henry folks in here, which is great. What about if you're with a particular financial institution, a bank, a credit union, or any other type of financial institution? That's fantastic. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming. All right, if you're with a fintech or a traditional vendor or a service provider, maybe you do staff augmentation, that's great. It looks like we've got a third. And if you're with somebody else, sorry if I left you out. I didn't intentionally do that. Isn't Lee wonderful? We're blessed to have Lee at Jack Henry. And it's really cool that he came here. Lee is a very popular guy, so he's all over the place. And so for him to come here and work with us some is great. I like to think of the way that we're running this kind of like going through a progressive meal. And if you think in that way, Lee just served you up a big salad. That's what he did. He gave you salad, right? I'm here for meat and potatoes. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. I've been at Jack Henry now, it's been over 20 years, and have worked in our CTO office for 11 to 12 of those years. And before that, I was in the banking area. And I've gotten a chance to get to know a lot of you and work with a lot of you for things and solutions like JExchange and some of our other platforms. We're going to talk a little bit today about building with the Jack Henry platform. And that's really important because as you watch Jack Henry and what we're doing, you're seeing Jack Henry as a company transform. For example, we're actually hosting a developers conference. It's the first of a lot to come in the future, but you're seeing us change as a company. One thing that we've always been proud about as a company is that we provide high-end service to our customers. We're not always exactly where we want to be from a service perspective, but we try really, really hard, and we get really close to both financial institutions and fintech vendors. We think of all of you. Sometimes we compete with fintechs and vendors, but we also see you all as our customers as well, so we try really hard. We've also been a product-based company, which means that what we do is we go to market and we sell individual products. So products like Silver Lake or Scimitar, some of our complementary products, that sort of thing. The piece that's changing for us and has really been over the past 7 to 8 years is that we're moving into being a platform company. So we're going to continue to provide products to our customers, but we're hyper-focused and hyper-invested in being a platform company. So this morning what I want to do is I want to talk about what it means to build in the platform. And we're going to talk through some of that. First, just a little bit about me. I rarely share much about my family, but this is my crew. This is at my son Charlie's football game, and that's Caroline on the right, Ruthie, who's my favorite, and then Ben, who we picked up from Taiwan in February of this year. So he's usually smiling more than that. Trust me, he likes us. I think we just caught him in that, but that was a fun moment. And if you know me, I live a pretty simple life. I work and then I'm with my family, and that's pretty much it. That's how I spend my time. Here's another one with us at a baseball game. There's Ben. He's smiling. I refer to him as Taiwan Ben because I report to Ben Metz, and so I have to keep those two straight. There's Taiwan Ben and there's Intense Ben, and that's my nicknames for both of them. All right, let's jump right into our discussion. Always, you'll see us, as we talk about platform, you'll see us always refer to our mission, and you'll just hear us, a lot of us, just say this over and over again. We're not just building things in the public cloud. We're not just building things from a platform perspective. Really what we want to do is get hyper-focused on financial services that are focused on the digital user, the digital consumer. And really, if you strip that down even more, what it means is that we want, for you financial institutions, we want to build solutions and technology that are well accepted by your customers or by your members. And so as we build and as we think about things, we are hyper-focused on that. That's not where we've always been. For decades, we've been hyper-focused on business users, folks that are in your retail areas at the financial institution, in your back office. We still have a lot of focus for that. You saw Lee's statistics around efficiencies. We think there is much to be gained there, especially since we're rewriting everything from scratch. We can do a lot of things, but your primary customer is where we're focused. And the primary channel, which is the digital engagement channel, is where we're focused. And so you'll see that more and more as we go. Also, a lot of things that you'll hear from me today is related to core components. But don't get caught up in thinking that as we talk about platform, it's synonymous to core. Core components are just a lot of the example that I'm going to be using today. Interestingly enough, we're trying to move away from that word because we think the idea of talking about core and then all the other labels that we use in the industry creates a lot of friction, unintentional friction, but a lot of friction. And what I mean by that is it doesn't make sense anymore to think of your engagement layer as a whole platform, like online and mobile banking, and then your back office area is a totally different type of platform, like back office and retail. It all should just be one platform, and it should all just be one digital banking platform. That's what it should be. And you should have an engagement layer that represents back office, an engagement layer that represents your contact center, an engagement layer that represents your retail area, and then an engagement layer that reaches out to your customers and members. And it really should work that way. And so over time in our industry, we will move away from saying things like core and online and mobile banking. We'll probably also move away from saying things like this is my CRM system, this is my fraud system, and so on. We're just going to be moving as an industry to talking about I have capabilities on a platform, and that's how it works, right? So today, what we're challenged with is cores. I'm going to be focusing on core technology for the rest of the talk, but cores traditionally look like this and have been for several decades now. In fact, the cores that can actually run a financial institution from top to bottom all look like this. And we call them legacy cores. That's all of us being really nice in the industry. We call them legacy cores. Some of them have grown, they've matured, they've API-enabled themselves. Jack Henry's cores are extremely relative in the industry, but they still have limitations because all of them are deployed from a monolithic perspective. All of their functions are bound up together, and we refer to them as this is the core, and this is what the core does, and this is what all the other things do. And remember where we're going. We're really getting focused on capabilities. Okay, this is just a high-level conceptual visual of where we really are right now. So we're on a journey on our existing platform. We're using the same platform that we've had for roughly 7 years now. We'll talk more about what that means here in a moment. But on that platform, we're building core functions, functions that you traditionally find in a core, and then we're integrating them into our offerings. And so a lot of folks, when they hear us talk about this, they'll say, oh, you're building a new core. And the answer is no, we're not. What we're doing is we're enabling more capabilities on our platform that may displace core functions, and we're providing that along with all of our other solutions. The reason why I'm really pressing on this today is the tools that we're building are tools for the people in this room. I'll show you how we're using these tools ourselves, but these tools are completely accessible to you. So we have a lot of the things that you would think of if you think of a modern platform, right? We have an identity provider that was natively built within Jack Henry. We have an authorizations solution and really a relationships solution, an ability solution that we built inside the company, inside of Jack Henry. We have everything related to, you'll see me talk about an approval service I'm sure most everybody in this room, if you're building something, you need an approval service. You work in banking, right? And so dual control is just part of our language. Well, we've built a whole service so that we're not rebuilding all of that. That's just part of our platform. Observability comes as part of our platform. We have an API gateway that's part of our platform. All of those things are just capabilities on our platform or ways that you access the platform, which some other folks today, Brad will be talking about access to the platform. Alex is going to be talking about access to the platform. We're using all of those things in a componentized way as we build new solutions, and you can too. That's the big message that I want to give to you all today, is we're building things using these capabilities, and they're just as open to you all as we build them and as we make them available with everything that I just mentioned. And so we're beginning to roll these out. In fact, I would say probably now half of these components in some way are in production today. And that could be everything from pilot to beta to full production. But we're about halfway through. With what you're looking at, we're targeting by the end of this calendar year to have everything out for our first wave. So everything will have, at a minimum, a version 1 that's in production by the end of next calendar year for what you're looking at. And that includes full things like general ledger, which we're going to dive into some today, and also the ability to run processing on an accruals-based accounting system, which is generally what we're talking about when we talk about a core. Okay, so what I want to do this morning is I just want to, at a high level, explain to you all how we built some of these things and what we're using to build these things, because you may be sitting in your chair and you may see some of these things and think, I'm struggling with the same thing. I could use that service as a value add, and I can do some of those things. And you are welcome to do that. That's one of the things that I really want to push. High-level visual of what we mean when we talk about the Jack Henry platform and specifically the core components of the Jack Henry platform. Okay, this is a visual that basically lays out everything and in some way maps how everything works. So we actually talk about these as we talk about how we're moving things to production. We talk about things with these labels. Notice that the word core, it's up in the far left, but core is nowhere else on this visual. And that's because, again, we've started kind of thinking of it a lot differently than this is my core. So on the far left, top left, these are your traditional money movers, things like wires and ACH, transfers, card management. We're working on push and pull to card at the moment. In the middle, you have your general ledger, which we're going to dive in a little bit today and talk about. It's one of my examples. And then a lot of the things that you would use for deposit servicing. Another word that we begin using a lot more than just core. This is my deposit servicing services. This is my loan servicing services. That's a bit of a tongue twister. But this is how we're thinking about that. And then how does all that integrate? And then on the far right are some of the things that I was mentioning earlier, authorizations and authentication. This is our UI and engagement. So these things are things that integrate with the platform, much like you can. Keeping them in mind, everything that we build on the internet. And a lot of our web UI engineers are sitting over on my right in the front row here. They will tell you as they develop UI within our back office and even in our digital engagement layer, they're building over the internet and hitting our APIs. We intentionally do that because we want to make it so that you can do it the same way, right? And so we just call that our UI and engagement layer. Notice I have just digital and front and back office all together in that engagement layer. These are just different personas are going to use different engagement layers, but they're all hitting the same platform. It's very intentional in how we do that. And then a lot of power tools, and I'm going to talk more about some of these things and how we're using them. Exception items, you may say, what is exception items? Well, it's a little self-explanatory. Any item that tries to post to your bank that needs to be handled outside of just a happy path, it's going to go to exception items. And we have gotten very serious about that, meaning there's no reason why that can't just be universal. If you have an item that needs to be handled, call the exception item API or throw it on the queue, and it'll be picked up and presented in exception items. It's that simple. We've kind of overcomplicated banking a little bit in this way. Over on the far left is our components and the way that we think about insights and data. Brad's going to be talking here right after me about insights and data. And then banking entity services. These are things that we traditionally call member account records or CIF. The way that we look at it is an entity is an entity, and that can be an individual, an organization. It could be a non-customer. It's just an entity, right? So literally what you're looking at, by the way, I just created this visual late last night. We don't talk about this as much. You're literally looking at what we're actively building and delivering by the end of next calendar year and plugging in a lot of things that we already have, like Jack Henry wires and Silver Lake and Scimitar transfers. All the Pay Center stuff goes in the top left as well. There's a lot of things that I'm not talking about, but are certainly part of this platform journey. All right, I want to dive in and kind of expose to you how we built wires and use these components. Again, the thing I really want to push is that as you're sitting in your chair, you can look and see the way that we're doing this and think, maybe I want to do the same thing, right? I really want to push on that. So a lot of times, if you all, by the way, has anybody in the room built a wire solution, a wire request solution? All right, I see Brian Coulter. Is that Brian Coulter? Raised his hand. I didn't know. Oh, well, yeah, okay. Now I know what he meant. He built this wire solution. Thanks, Brian. There's always one in the crowd. Normally, we have fintech and vendors that have built wire solutions or money mover solutions, and when they come to Jack Henry and they want to integrate, normally what they're talking about is doing this, right? They're just like, I'm building a money mover solution, I'm building a wire solution, or I'm building some sort of solution. And so when we built it inside the company, we looked at it from an outside fintech perspective, and obviously this was the first place we looked. But we tried to be very focused on making it so that we were really using the platform. So we could have just as easily said, okay, well, with Jack Henry Wires, we're going to do this for logging. We're going to have it's going to have its own API gateway, or we're going to use a public cloud platform API gateway. We're going to do these things. And traditionally, just to be honest, companies that are Jack Henry or the size of Jack Henry, that's traditionally how they work, right? You're hyper-focused on just getting something out the door, and so as a result, you just take as many shortcuts as you possibly can. And really, when it comes to the rest of the company, you're like, well, how do I get to your core? Because that's where all the customers are. That's what's deployed the most. I just need access to your core. But we were hyper-focused on not doing that. And so, obviously, we do need access to Scimitar and Silver Lake and Core Director in 2020, our legacy cores. And we're using and gaining access to that in the traditional ways, JExchange and SimExchange. But we also said we needed to get to the Fed, and we're not necessarily going to build that into Jack Henry Wires. Why don't we just have a set of Fedline services that allow us to submit via either Fedline Advantage, preparing an ISO-based file, or over Fedline Direct? And so we built those services. We built a set of services called Fedline that support Advantage and Direct. If you're interested in that, we can talk to you about that, right? Then there's other pieces that we began to realize that we needed, and we didn't want to just build it for Jack Henry Wires. We wanted to build it for the company and for the industry, right? So if we can build Fedline sets of services and make that available to the industry, we thought we needed to provide things like Jack Henry Platform Services. And so I'll give some examples. Obviously, if you're going to run a wire, you certainly need to do OFAC checking, right? And so what we did is we provided and built a set of sanction screening services, and we made it where those sanction screening services can be an abstraction layer, and on the other side call things like our new Defender solution, or things like LexisNexis and some of the other really common OFAC checking solutions, okay? Again, if we build it in this way, and we did, we can also make that available to you all. I mentioned the approval service before. It'd be interesting to take a poll. I'm not going to do it, but how many of you have written approval logic yourself, and how many of you have written it multiple times, right? And so what we want to do, I already see hands raised in the audience. What we want to do is make that very simple, right? And especially if you're on the banking side or the credit union side, and you have 10 different fintech solutions and all of them do approvals in different ways, that becomes very frustrating. And so what's ours is yours in that model as well. Jack Henry Workflow. This is a new workflow solution. So if you're familiar with Jack Henry and one of the things we bring to market, we have a solution called Enterprise Workflow. And that's become very popular across our customer base. We have rebuilt that from scratch and made it cloud native. And it is shipping at no charge with our solutions. So inside of Jack Henry, we've made the statement, if you want to take a hard dependency on Jack Henry Workflow, please do it. It's basically a process automation solution or a process orchestration solution. We've made the statement, please take a dependency if you need it or want it. Your customers will not be charged for it. Because what we're trying to do is make it where we're using platform components in the right way. So go-to-market is a big part of the platform discussion for sure, and making sure that you're aligning incentives. We won't get into that as much today, but it's a big part of it. The other thing that we took into account are some of the things that you traditionally think of that need to be there. So we just have one internet-facing authentication set of services or identity provider services, and one authorization. I have it listed here as relationships and access. You'll see more and more about that over the next couple of months. And then I mentioned our UI and engagement layer, and then insights and data Brad's going to be talking about. But we don't need multiple data access solutions. We should just have one as an example. And so you can see we've gone a long way from, I'm going to build a wire solution and all I need from the rest of the company is access to the legacy cores, to this posture where we're building components and solutions on the platform and then we're making it available to everyone else to use. And so that's an exciting thing. That's something that if we can do it inside the company in this way, and we certainly have, we need to make it where it's accessible to you all. And so that some of that is already available. We already have folks that are integrating with wires, and they're building their own solutions on top of wires, which uses all these other solutions under the covers. But we also want to make it where it's very easy for you to use all these solutions, right, at the same time. So that's a really clear message we want to send to you. The other thing I wanted to give as an example, so I wanted to use wires as an example, how we built it and the components that we used so that you can kind of use that in an analogy perspective. The other one is general ledger. So we are in pilot with a brand new general ledger. It integrates with our existing cores, and then it also integrates with our deposit servicing, the other components that we're building. And the goal is for our customers to be able to fully run deposits and service deposits all in a cloud-native way. And so we had to have a general ledger to do just that. You saw that visual in the very first visual that I showed. There's some certain things that you really need to know about our general ledger that are really important. One, it is truly a real-time general ledger. In our industry, everything that everybody always talks about is, especially if you wrote a thing, oh, by the way, it's real time. And what you find, if you stay in the industry long enough, is the word real time is relative. It's all contextual and relative. There's usually a but that follows that statement. And so what we have done is we have built an accruals-based, which means you're recognizing your credits and debits immediately as you're made aware of your credits and debits, which is magical in General Ledger and does not happen in General Ledger. Basically enables the bank or the credit union to know what their balance is holistically at the time in which credits and debits are represented. That's what I mean by accruals-based. It's all about recognition from a general ledger perspective. So it is accruals-based, and it is also truly real-time. It is also very easy for you all to integrate with. I'm going to show you how to integrate with general ledger here in just a bit as we talk through this. But I wanted to show you some other things about it as well. So this was a visual I showed earlier. I want to talk you through some of the pieces around general ledger. It has what you commonly think of from a general ledger perspective. Obviously, it represents a summarized CFO or CFO office perspective of where your bank is, from external accounts to internal accounts to roll-ups and so on. That's really important to note. There's other attributes about it, like totaling groups. So within the general ledger that we now have in pilot, you have the ability to support totaling groups, which allows you to see roll-up, is basically the way to think about it. So you can roll up multiple totaling groups to a hierarchical totaling group, or you can roll up multiple GL accounts to a totaling group GL account. It makes it very simple for you to be able to see the things that you want to see from your chair, right? And so that's a really neat aspect of our general ledger. The other thing that I want to point out is everything has to be balanced immediately as it's submitted to the general ledger. This is a little different than the way that current general ledgers work, where you might send in one side and the other side come in later. I want to ask the question to just see who knows it, but there's such a big audience. The question I want to ask is, anybody understand why we are forcing that? Because it's real time, right? So you have to make the mandate, hey, if you're going to integrate with the general ledger, we need every single transaction set to be submitted balanced, because this is an accruals-based, real-time general ledger. It's extremely important to know. The other thing to know, so as part of that, you got to have at least 2 transactions. Obviously, your debits and credits have to balance. You can post backwards up to the month threshold, the beginning of the month threshold. So you can post backwards in current day. Really important to note. We also, I don't have this on the screen, but we support things like reversals, which are basically offsets in the general ledger. Our general ledger is fully built on Google Cloud Spanner, which is a magical thing and really important to note. And it is obviously part of our cloud platform and journey. The other thing that's important to note, we are using this for multiple things. So obviously, all of our deposit servicing is built into general ledger. We've integrated it with Silver Lake. We're going to be integrating it with Scimitar. We've already put it into our customers' hands. Thanks much to Brian Coulter, who has also built a general ledger front end. He's responsible for a lot of the, all of the web UI. But we have fully functional UI on top of it. Again, a lot of you need a general ledger. You don't need a whole core. You just need a general ledger. What's ours is yours in this case. Really important to know. I told you I would tell you what you have to do to integrate with general ledger. This is it. This is what you have to do to integrate to the general ledger. What's really cool about this is most general ledgers in the industry today will handle translations. Who knows what I'm talking about when I talk about a general ledger interface or a general ledger translation? Okay, basically, based on the attributes of the transaction or the codes, it's going to split the monies and understand to which GLs the transaction should go. Most of that happens outside of the general ledger. So a lot of times that's written and done in such a way in which you send in like a GL interface code, and based on the code, then once it gets to general ledger, it's already split and handled, and it posts in such a way. We embedded all of that into the general ledger. Why did we do it? So that our general ledger could be developer friendly. So essentially, what you need to do is send in a T-set, and you're integrated with the general ledger. It just requires a balanced transaction set, and you're done. That's the kind of thing that we're working really hard to do to make sure that we're doing these things right. And also, this is a fully standalone component. So if you were interested in something like this, you could just consume the general ledger. It's going to require things like our identity provider and our API gateway, because that's how it's deployed, because we're talking about single multi-tenant SaaS deployment. But there's no other things from a domain perspective that have to be theirs. The last thing I want to point out, as I'm running just a little bit over, everything that we develop here, everything that we make available is out on jackhenry.dev. And that's just going to continue on and on and on. We have some really exciting news about jackhenry.dev that'll be shared later today. But that is your one place to go, jackhenry.dev, for information, also for being able to consume and use these pieces. As we move things out of pilot, that's when you'll see those components go to jackhenry.dev. For example, Jack Henry Wires APIs already out there. General Ledger APIs will soon be out there. It's in pilot right now. But it's exciting times for us at Jack Henry. I hope you feel just as excited. We want to make it where you can build on these things and it just gets you to market faster because you're getting hyper-focused on what you want to provide value in the market for, and we're just helping you do that. Thanks for giving me time to talk some today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Jaime, we'll call you back out here and hand it back over. Thanks again.